Hi everybody and welcome to another piano review here at Merriam Pianos. My name is Stu Harrison and today's video is all about Roland's new RP701. This has hit the market a few months ago. We're in 2021 and the instrument is getting quite a bit of buzz along with the F701, its kind of cousin or sister model. We're going to be talking about its action. Of course, we're going to be covering its tone, its sound, and really giving a listen to what this brings us over its predecessor, the RP501R. So, if this is the first time to the channel, please do subscribe. We would love to see you back for more videos and comment anytime you see fit. We read all of them and try and respond to as many of them as we possibly can. So without further ado, let's get started with Roland's RP701 right away. The RP701 is the update to the RP501R. Now, what did that R stand for? Well, it was rhythm. Just like the F140R stood for the rhythm, you could activate the rhythms and, I guess more specifically, the onboard accompaniment without the use of the app. And that was something that they had built in right into the live user interface. They've ditched that. And I mean, I know why they've ditched it, because it now is so commonplace to use an external app connected with a Bluetooth wireless connection to control and manipulate the various settings on digital pianos. It's becoming sort of a bit of a standard user experience across many brands, not just Roland. So Roland ditched it for both the F701 update to the F140 as well as the RP701 update to the RP501. So those rhythms are still in there somewhere, but you need to access them through the app, and you can get to it through the Piano Everyday app. That is Roland's update to their Piano Partner 2. So that's where the R has gone, but what we are left with is a musical instrument that is substantially more musical than what we had with the RP501. I have to say that this is a much more interesting instrument to play, and we're going to talk about exactly why that is. We start with sound. This instrument is equipped with the new BMC chip, and that chip allows Roland to more or less just scale up the complexity of the Supernatural engine. Now, this is not modeling, this is still sampling, but the Supernatural engine, I mean, I realize to those who've built this engine at Roland, I'm probably dumbing this down in an insulting way, but more or less, you have a core sample of the piano, and then you have other samples and artifacts of the sound which get added on in an algorithmic process depending on what gets played. So you can, increase the sample size or the sample volume of, say, the pedal lifting off the strings, or the sound of the key, returning to its rest position again. All of these extra little things that just add to the authenticity. So the Supernatural engine, calculates all of those in a specific proportion and spits out a total aggregated sound. Well, there's a specific complexity that you can load into that depending on the processor you have. BMC chip's a faster processor, it's a newer architecture, therefore you can load more into it. And that gives the user a very a specific improvement in a few different areas. One thing that I notice is the lower volume performance on the RP701 as well as the F701 is much better. I have a deeper, richer, more nuanced sense of the dynamic range of the instrument than I ever did with the RP501. you know, every instrument, every good instrument anyway, always compels you to explore different areas, different textures and palettes. And like I said, the RP501 never had me really excited beyond just a functional way. And with the 701, you know, I actually am, you know, I'm actually compelled towards really playing down in these sort of softer, more subtle corners of the piano. That's where the music happens, for me. So I credit a lot of that to the BMC chip and their ability to just add layers, because it's coming out. You're getting it. And I think the strongest parts of this piano, because, you know, this sits in the middle of the Roland lineup, right? Like, let's have some context. There's the LX stuff right up at the very top, then there's HP that sits on top of this, and then this is the RP. You could say, really, the RP701 is the very first home digital piano in Roland's lineup, like at the bottom and then going up from there. So it only gets better beyond this. But even for their entry point into this type of a case and this type of a format, I love everything from the pianissimo range right up to about the forte range is not just acceptable, but like is good. And the decay is so much better than it used to be. We've reviewed the F701, which is kind of this one's brother or sister. And the main difference that you get between those two instruments is the effect of the cabinet itself on the sound. And, you know, whenever I hear somebody starting to talk about the effect of the cabinet, it immediately just sounds like spin to me. But when you get them side by side, it's true. There is a sort of a box resonator effect that the larger cabinet on the RP701 has, and you really notice it in the lower third. There's a warmth and there's there's a resonance that you get down there. That you kind of only get when you've got resonating wood. You know, I don't know any other material out there that gives you that type of effect. And so you really do feel the cabinet. I don't know that they have changed the quality of the speaker inside the RP701. But I can say for sure that they have tweaked in somehow way the speaker boxes or how it's interacting with this cabinet, because I'm getting a lot more cabinet effect. Now the fact that we're still just dealing with two speakers and all the sound has to come through those speakers, and they're probably not the most expensive speakers in the world, does mean that when you get up into your higher dynamic ranges, meaning higher volume ranges for people who are new to this lingo, those highs can at times be a little bit harsh. But that's where you hop into the piano designer and you start playing around with things like the soundboard type. you start playing around with things like the voicing on the hammer, so you get a little bit of a better balance between still the attack that you want, but without any of that harshness. And every room is going to be a bit different. Everybody's ear is going to be a little bit different. So there's no one simple answer to that. What I hear is a little bit harsh. Other people are going to hear is amazingly clear or brilliant. So that is where something like an HP704 or getting into an LX705, which I get it, is a jump up in price, but you get those multiple speakers and you can have more detailed, smaller speakers a little closer to you, barely putting out any sound to give you that detail. And it just means that you don't have to put as much high-end frequency through those lower speakers that sometimes can get into a slightly distorted sound. It's putting out 256 notes of polyphony, this BMC chip, which is kind of becoming the upper end of standard. More or less means you never have to worry about it running out of space. You're never going to get note cancellation or anything like that. So we've been listening to the Concert Grand. Let's talk about a few other sounds before we move on to their other sections, the action and the functionality and connectivity. The piano sound isn't the only sound that has benefited from this new BMC chip and some boosted complexity in the Supernatural engines. If we take a listen to, for example, their 1976 Suitcase, which has been with us for many years. I don't know what year they released this particular patch, but it's kind of the default patch for the Supernatural E-piano engine. And it's great, and it continues to just get better. There are others where I don't detect as much difference, but are still quite functional. The strings, I don't hear as much a difference in. But still quite nice. Their organs, have always been quite good. And then you get into some of the General MIDI 2 stuff, which pretty much going to be standard no matter who is outputting that from a manufacturer standpoint. So a great variety of tones in there. In fact, this has over 300 tones to choose from if you include the General MIDI 2 sound bank. and a number of those acoustic pianos as well. As I've said in other videos though, if you're going to more or less be playing acoustic piano 95% of the time, to me it's not a matter of picking which piano sound in here sounds the best. Start with your concert piano and dive into the piano designer, modify from there, because to my ear, the main concert piano patch is the most complex engine in there, and figure out a way to get that happening so your ear really loves it. Then you're taking advantage of the maximum sort of processing and computing power that's on board this RP701. We are going to move on to the next section right now, but thank you so much for being with us so far. We're going to talk about the action. We'll be back in just a second. RP701 uses a common action in the Roland lineup. It's the PHA4. Not much new to report here. They haven't really tweaked it. It's been the same since, I don't know, I think 2015, 2016 is the first time this current PHA4 standard action came out. I think there was a time where the PHA4, they were sort of, there was different variants of that, and then they finally scrapped that naming convention and moved to like PHA50 and all that other stuff. Anyway, this has the PHA4 standard. It has escapement, and it also has a triple sensor. The triple sensor isn't going to matter to most people in most playing situations, but it does make a big difference in a few specific clinch situations. One, if you're playing a lot of fairly rapid music, one where you may have quite a bit of repetition going on, or a lot of fairly aggressive, violent staccato type motion, the triple sensor really helps to make sure that the MIDI data is still accurate and eliminate any kind of double hits in there, because sometimes you can get some really weird spikes on dual sensor instruments if you are doing that. So I know a lot of people in a professional setting, especially if they're playing fusion funk or of course specific classical repertoire, where that can be a pain. Obviously with casual playing, you're just sitting down to enjoy some your favorite pop tune, not necessarily going to notice the benefits of a triple sensor. The other thing it can do, really along the same lines, even if you're not doing that, if you're using this as a MIDI input device, the accuracy of that MIDI information in terms of your velocities and really how much variation, accurate variation you can get across that 1 to 127 velocity, the triple sensor can make a difference there as well. The keys on the PHA4 have a slight texture on the white key as well as a micro texture on the black key. When I say micro texture, I just mean that it's small enough that you can't actually see the individual artifacts of the texture, but the fact that it's not gloss means that there's some type of a rough surface on there that's deflecting deflecting the light. So it's got a nice glide to it. It has a nice texture to it, feels good on the keys, on the fingers, and the weight of the PHA4 also, kind of down the middle. Doesn't really feel light, doesn't really feel heavy, and it feels the same whether you're playing it softly, loudly, slowly, or quickly. Not all actions out there have that. That's probably one of the things that's the most difficult to nail with a keyboard geometry, especially when you start to compact it a little bit, is making sure that the static resistance, the dynamic resistance feels the same. It's perceived as feeling the same no matter what style of music you're playing. So these are all important factors depending on your prior experience with piano stuff. The repetition speed, because I know quite a few people want to know that, so here is me repeating middle C. It's pretty good. And it's not super loud either. The other thing with the PHA4 action, and I'm going to just mute or turn this down for a second, is actually, you know what? Just so I know exactly that the volume will be the same. I'm just going to turn it completely off. Roland actions are known as being loud on the downstroke and pretty quiet on the upstroke. So if you were playing a Roland, especially the PHA4, not the quietest thing. But almost practically nothing on the way up. It's literally the opposite of, say, Kawai, where Kawai's is a little, has more noise happening on the release versus the down where it's a little more cushioned. So if you're buying a PHA4 and you're planning on playing this in the same room as somebody trying to sleep, headphones ain't gonna help the situation. But of course, there's many situations where that won't matter at all. So for those that needed to know that, now you've heard the action without any sound. We are going to move on to connectivity and other features of the instrument. Thanks so much again for sticking with us. We'll be back in just a second. So the RP701 uses Bluetooth MIDI as well as Bluetooth audio. That means you can stream to the instrument through Bluetooth. It will not stream out through Bluetooth. That means no Bluetooth headphones, no hooking this up to like a little portable JBL speaker or anything else like that. You can transmit wirelessly, but you need a whole bunch of accessories, and it's probably going to be using a standard radio frequency transmitter, which does work in real time or virtual real time. Versus Bluetooth, which actually has a significant lag, and that's the reason why you can't use outbound Bluetooth from these for any kind of real-time monitoring. The lag, can't get around it, or at least they haven't figured out how to yet. So it's got the Bluetooth also with the radio connection with your mobile device or computer. So that allows the Bluetooth MIDI or the proprietary data connection for the Roland apps. We've done some other instruments where we actually show that Piano Everyday app, so be sure to check that out, or just Google Piano Everyday, and there's, Roland's got some good videos there. Kind of shows you how you can operate this, but that's where you can access quite a few of the onboard lesson features as well as the onboard repertoire. You can also remote control the instrument in terms of selecting the tone, splitting the keyboard, layering the sounds, which is all something you can do both on board here as well as with the app. This does not have separate line outs. However, you can use the headphone jack to send a line out to another speaker, just as we are here today, and you can independently control whether the local speakers get defeated by something being in the headphone port or not. So in effect, you do have line outs, but it's not quite as convenient as if you had those 1/4 inch or balanced outs as some of the other Rolands do. I guess they're assuming, and probably rightly, that this isn't likely to be on very many stages. It's probably going to be permanently stationed in people's living rooms, and if you're going to hook it up, you're going to hook it up, and you can kind of just leave it that way. So you don't need a port that can take a lot of physical abuse. This instrument comes with a matching bench, it comes with the triple pedal board, and it also comes in, I think, 4 different colors. And Roland, probably more than any other company, started really focusing on the quality of the veneer and the quality of the cabinet design. Certainly, they were ahead of Kawai in this regard. I know Yamaha had some lines that were quite furniture focused, and other lines that were sort of with Kawai stuck in the 90s in terms of the black-brown look and really just a bit of a cheaper looking exterior. Even if the durability wasn't a problem, the look wasn't great. Well, Roland kind of led the way in creating not just a durable cabinet, because these are, like, this is hardwood plywood. A lot of this stuff is not cheap MDF, but a much thicker veneer that stands up to quite a bit of abuse, and the quality of the veneer looks quite convincing. So this comes in a charcoal black. You can get it in a dark rosewood. You can get it in a white, and you can also get it in a light oak. So I think 4 different colors that you can get the RP701 in. You are seeing this one in the charcoal black for what it's worth. Comes with the music stand. Also comes with a key cover. If you're in a dusty area, the key cover is actually something that you would and should get some use out of. You don't want a whole ton of dust building in your key mechanism and sensors over time. They've also added this extra little hump here in the track so that if you don't want to see the controls, you actually just leave it open like this, and it sort of just sits there nicely and looks fairly natural and covers up those extra buttons. So if you sort of want to either fool yourself or maybe a guest in your house that this isn't as digital as it is, then you just do that, or you push it all the way back. So thank you so much for this in-depth look at the RP701, one of Roland's more recent products and a cousin to the F701. You may want to check that one out. And kind of the entry point into Roland's home digital line. It's sort of right at the crossover between where you go from their F series and the FP series before you get in to the HP. I think for somebody looking for home use where this isn't going to really have to move around, you've got space for a larger cabinet. You do benefit from that larger cabinet sonically speaking. And at a pretty affordable price point, you get an instrument with some subtlety and an instrument that's going to be satisfying to play, I would say, for a beginner hobbyist, really up until maybe kind of a high level amateur would still get a ton of satisfaction out of an RP701 for sure. And from a durability standpoint, take care of this, you're going to get 10 years plus. Anything from, say, 30 minutes a day up to, an hour and a half, 2 hours a day at most is kind of what this is designed to do. And there you have it. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Stu Harrison. This has been Merriam Pianos on YouTube, and we will see you back again soon.